I would like to ask you a question about Marathon Man, and every person in this audience knows what question I'm going to ask you. If ever there was a forum to put this story to rights, what occurred between you and Olivier when he is reputed to have said to you, "Dear boy, have you ever tried acting?"
Well, it's a very good example of the press, because I'm the one who told the story. I told it to, I remember I told it to Time magazine, and they totally, distorted it. I was in the middle of a marriage breakup. It was very painful, and I'm supposed to have been awake 3-4 days, and I'm thinking, well, let me see if I can do this. I won't sleep, and it was an excuse to go to Studio 54.
Right.
When I got back to LA and told him, he understood the subtext of it. I was like, that I was doing it for the work, Mm-hmm. And then he says, "My dear boy, why don't you try acting?" He made extraordinarily untraditional kind of choices, and I told that as part of the story at the time, but it makes a better story.
Wasn't he very ill during the filming?
He was in awful shape. Everybody knew he was in pain. Everybody knew he was on painkillers. This is the guy who had, at one time, King Lear, Richard III, Hamlet in his head, and he's alternating them. Okay? Here's a guy who had all those parts in his head and couldn't remember 3 lines in a row sometimes because of the painkillers. I mean, it was that sad. He wanted to do the part. He took it because he knew he was dying. We learned later he wanted to have money to leave his kids. We were tight. And when that movie was over, we went out to dinner. I'll never forget it. Never, ever, ever, ever forget it. I'm sitting there with Olivier. I don't know if I'm ever going to see him again because, he's sick. His wife is there, this wonderful woman, Joan Plowright, and we're sitting, and then his kids, a couple of his kids are there, and then we're waiting, and this other kid comes who's going to UCLA. I remember he had red hair, and I remember he went up in back of Olivier, and he patted his head, and he kissed him on the head. And you just knew, this thing, oh, God. And he sits down and we're talking, whatever. I'm just so curious. I says, we all wonder what makes us do what we do. Do you have an answer? I says, tell me, what is it? What's the reason we do what we do? And can I get up?
Yeah.
He goes right up, and he leans over to me, and I swear to God, and he leans over, he says, "You want to know why, dear boy?" I said, "What?" "Look at me, look 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 at me."